Thank you. Well, I will start directly because I've got quite a lot of slides. But Luc was really busy. So the agenda is first little analysis on what non-Fortinet threat reports can tell us. Yeah, when you're trying to sell cybersecurity and network security, the last thing you need to do is use your own threat reports to state what you want to say, because the customer will always say, yeah, but that's your own intel, I don't believe you. So I deliberately chose two well-known threat reports. And there will be some lessons learned from those threat reports. And this is what cybersecurity is all about. We try to evangelize, try to create awareness about threats, because some customers aren't that aware. And otherwise, in the second part, we will talk about the solution. What can we present to you, knowing what is happening out there to counter those threats? So I used two well-known annual reports. They are already there for multiple years. IBM Ponemon, cost of a data breach, and the data breach incident report of Verizon. So, why am I using those threat reports? Like Verizon is saying, guys, we look at the past, we look at actually what has been happening, so to be able to plan and prepare for what is coming. Yeah? Or you could say, like John Chambers, there are only two types of organizations: those that have been hacked and those that don't know it yet, because that's an actual reality. And what I would say is, prepare for the worst, hope for the best. So, just to show you that what we will be talking about, statistics, loss of revenue, amounts, it's not for that spectacular data breach like Facebook or Yahoo. Those are rather common organizations, not the exceptional ones. So it will be applying to your type of organization. First, who are the bad guys? Maybe it doesn't come as a surprise, but mainly the bad actor is external, looking for financial gain, and it's organized crime. But don't mistake, you still have roughly about 20% of data breaches caused by internal actors. I'll come back to that in a later slide. So, when looking at the attack chain, where are they focusing on? You'll see compromised credentials was the most common attack vector. The most costly was business email compromise. Just to keep that in mind, where you need to focus on when you want to start your protection. And what we see is, when you look at the actions, what type of actions are the bad guys using, there's clearly a difference between actions resulting in breaches, data has been stolen, and actions that caused incidents. Yeah. I'm not going to read what you all kind of see, but clearly phishing. What you'll see is the type of action will vary along the attack chain. So there will be tactics and actions used to try to get in, to infiltrate. But on the other hand, other tactics, other actions will be used to exfiltrate data, and everything in between. Yeah? So what is interesting to see is that to infiltrate, you'll see using social, yeah? Or hacking. But clearly, when you want to exfiltrate data, you'll see when somebody, insider, misuse, makes an error, easily data gets out. Or, what you also can learn is that hackers use malware throwing all of the attack chain. There, quickly look, malware. So that's interesting to see. What do we do as defenses to stop infiltration? What can we do to stop exfiltration and everything in between? So, COVID, of course. What was the effect of COVID? Having a lot of people working from home on breaches. Yeah? Don't pinpoint on the $1 million you'll see. It's just giving you an idea that with people working from home, breaches were more costly, were more complex to detect. 70% of the companies they investigated, 17% of the breaches were caused by people working remotely from home, hackers being able to hack users at home, getting into the network of the company. It takes a lot more time to identify, to detect the breach. And what you see is, there you see the COVID effect on the type of tactics hackers used. So phishing was really on the rise. People working from home, they don't have a colleague to check, they are much more susceptible to phishing. Stolen credits remained roughly the same. Ransomware, we've seen it in all the reports, is growing exponentially. 10% of breaches caused by ransomware. When looking now 2021, some analysts talk about an increase of ransomware of 1,100%. So it's going through the roof. So what assets do they target? Clearly, servers. Before, when we were talking about crypto lockers some years ago, it was your laptop, it was an end-user device. That's declining for the last 2-3 years. They are focusing on servers. It's not a coincidence, because everybody is moving more and more servers to the cloud. Cloud is adding complexity. Like Luc said, what you can't see, you can't protect. Well, cloud poses a lot of challenges to a lot of organizations. So clearly, servers. And people are the second category. They get compromised because of phishing. Like I said, COVID had a lot to do with it as well. And those breaches using personal, like you see, social and web app vectors, more and more server-based, gathering credentials of users to attack web-based or cloud-based email systems. So, the harm has been done, you've been breached, data has been stolen. You see the numbers for yourself. By average, $4 million cost of a data breach. Again, we are not talking about those exceptionally big data breaches. 4 million. 38% of the cost of a data breach is lost business. important. I met a customer yesterday doing 750 million euros turnover. I should say, for Belgian standards, it's a decent company. Security in place, firewall and endpoint. They said, our biggest fear is ransomware, our data being encrypted. I said, okay, I was talking, put a budget, that much? I said, guys, I was just talking about a couple of 100K. One day, production going down, 70/50 divided by 365 days. It's no rocket science, you're losing a lot of money. Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. So clearly, loss of business is a big part of the cost of your data breach. So, what is astonishing, like Luc said, visibility is key. Clearly, a lot of organizations have a big issue and a big problem with visibility. If it takes you up to 7 months to realize that you've been breached. 7 months. Meaning, the hacker gets into your network 1st of January, 7 months, that's July, you detect it, and then it will take you, by average, another 75 days to get back on your feet. So that's 14th of October. Big issue. I don't have to mention that. What you see is when the hacker is using some kind of techniques to get in, it's clearly that your global average is here. Insider threats, much more difficult to detect. Business email compromise and compromised credentials. Remember some slides back, most used techniques, the longest time to detect. The longer it takes you to detect, the bigger the damage. What data are they trying to steal? Personal, identifiable information. Raising the cost of your data breach. The more info they'll get, of course, the more personal info they'll get, the more valuable. Higher the cost. Encrypt your data could help. Encrypted data, anonymized data, lowers the cost of your breach. Of course, no rocket science, I would say. It's not everything could realize, knowing that personal identifiable data is worth a lot. Healthcare is the most targeted industry. Electronic patient intel, you'll find a lot of information about people at hospitals. Are hospitals known for the state-of-the-art security approach? Not really. For 11 years, healthcare has been targeted the most. Personal identifiable information, healthcare. Adding to the cost of a data breach is the more regulated your industry is, your business, the higher the compliancy rules, the higher the cost. What you always also see is that the cost of a data breach is not something you'll see first months after your breach. It can go on for years. The higher regulated the industry, the more you will have costs at the end, in comparison with other less regulated industries. Because you'll be sure you'll get fines, you will have to pay because you were not GDPR compliant and so on. Cloud. Cloud is everywhere, data is everywhere. What are the challenges? Clearly, cloud is again something that can add to the cost of a data breach. What was interesting to see in those reports that hybrid cloud had the lowest cost of a data breach. The more companies migrated to the cloud, the higher the cost of a data breach. It was an amplifier in the cost. What you see, that's from other reports I've found, clearly everyone, the biggest concern for all companies, enterprise or SMB, is cloud security. It's a real challenge. 76% of organizations that decided to move to the cloud will adopt or have adopted a multi-cloud approach. Every cloud with its own logic to secure, clearly challenges are there. Companies clearly need a consistent security approach. Need to be sure that wherever the data is, whether it's cloud, on-prem, wherever, the same levels of security are applied. No gaps are there. Ransomware. Like I said, 10% of breaches caused by ransomware. 4.6 million average cost by a data breach caused by ransomware. That's not the most important thing. The only thing you need to understand is that hackers adopted their approach to ransomware. A couple of years ago, at the hospital calling, like I said, encrypted laptop. That was it. Pay $200, whatever, in Bitcoin to get the key. They didn't pay, they installed the backup, and that was that. Now, hackers will come in, first steal your data, and they've got a lot of time to steal your data, like we know, 7 months. Then they will encrypt your data, and to be sure that they will pay, they will threaten you to publicly disclose the stolen data if you don't pay. Mega breaches. That's an whole other ballgame. If you thought that 4 million, 5 million was a lot for a data breach, multiply it by 100 when you're talking about mega breaches. Equifax, a couple of years ago, estimated cost, 4 billion. One company. WannaCry, total cost in 2016, 250,000 infected PCs worldwide, 4 billion. One company, 4 billion. So I'm pretty sure that certainly in Belgium, we have a lot of SMBs, because those American reports, when they talk about SMB customers, sometimes it's up to 1,000 employees, 500 employees. We know when we talk in Belgium about a KMO, it's 50 people. Yeah? So I tried to look for info to have a more Belgian approach to things, to say, okay, guys, we are not a 100,000 people company like in America, but those are some interesting statistics for SMBs. Less than 500 employees. Okay. Some SMBs think, I'm not an interesting target. That's all over. Valuable data is everywhere. Everybody has that personal data stored from customers and so on. So an SMB is even really interesting because they have lack of resources, IT people, funding, time. So you can assume that the level of cybersecurity at an SMB is less than in a big organization. Because you have less employees, one employee has more access to valuable data. If you can hack an employee of an SMB, you're more likely to have much more sensitive data at your disposal. And supply chain attacks. More and more we see SMBs getting hacked because that SMB is a supplier of a big organization, and they use that SMB to get into the big organization. Big organizations, 80% external, 20%, 25% inside the threat. For SMBs, almost 50-50. Like I said, an average employee in a smaller organization has access to more valuable data. That's also an IBM Ponemon report stating 7.6 million cost of a data breach caused by insider threat for an SMB. Whether it's 7 million, 2 million, 1 million, an SMB suffering those type of damages, you have to be a hell of an SMB to survive that. In all honesty, there are a lot of SMBs following a data breach, they will file for bankruptcy. Cash flow problems. I don't know anymore who I have to send bills to. Your suppliers are sending your bills to pay, loss of reputation, loss of business, and at a certain moment in time, you're done. Like I said, complexity is the enemy of security. We talked about cloud. You see clearly that there is an amplifier in organization having a high degree of complexity, of compliancy failure. The amplifiers are there in additional big costs of a data breach. Those reports say, okay, we've been talking about what is amplifying the cost, but what can reduce the cost? The maturity level of your company. How serious are you doing your security, your cybersecurity? Zero trust approaches have a big, big financial impact that can reduce the damage. Unfortunately, only 35% of organizations state they are looking, they are implementing partially or fully zero touch. Luc said it also, automation, automation, automation. Artificial intelligence and automation can really help detect quicker, have a faster reaction, and so on, to lower your cost. I have to speed up things. Because, okay, that were the facts and the figures. It is what it is. I hope everybody is aware of the risk. So what can be the solution? There is no miracle solution. There is not one new product that rules them all, that will replace everything. Good security is like an onion, I always say. I know it's a bad and lame joke, but nevertheless, it makes you want to cry, but best apply it in layers. Yeah? I didn't find this. This is all common sense. Organizations deployed for years best in breed security, siloed security, integration close to zero, automation very difficult. By average, 40 to 70 security solutions are deployed in a company. 40 to 70, all with their management interface, all with their own logic of configuration, logging and reporting. This is a big issue. We added a lot of new technologies in our company networks. The effect of digital innovation is clearly that network became borderless. Your data is everywhere. Cloud, site, software as a service. So you have a growing attack surface. The entry points on your network are everywhere. And still, companies deploy best in breed. Adding complexity, lack of visibility, disaster waiting to happen. So I was really pleased. I found a Gartner report. I'm not a big fan of Gartner, don't get me wrong. But a lot of customers say, oh, if you're in the magic quadrant of Gartner, and Gartner this and Gartner that. Okay? I found the report they published 18th of October 21, talking about the trends of 2022. Cybersecurity mesh architecture. I'm not going to read it again, you can see, but it is a concept, an architectural concept, an approach to security where you will have your users, whether it's IoT, IT, mobile applications, and so on, users and devices, your data at the other side, and your mesh architecture, your services, your components you're going to deploy, focused on consolidated dashboards, centralized management, centralized reporting, logging, creating visibility, automation, actionable security, security analytics, and intelligence, threat information that can be shared, like Luc said, APIs, open standards, with an identity fabric all across. Enhanced visibility benefits, okay. I was really glad with that report, because when I was reading it, with all the respect, Gartner said, choose a primarily led security vendor. Choose best in suite. Try to have some solutions with one vendor, because there you have the biggest automation, the biggest integration, and then look at what gaps, and depending on the security level of your organization, you will add other solutions. But for that, of course, open standards API, that you're future-proof and that you're not stuck when you want to evolve. That's the security fabric all about. We've been evangelizing this to our customers for the past 6 years. Fortinet Belgium is the best performing country for Fortinet worldwide selling fabric. This open ecosystem is broad, it's open. We have got 70 fabric-ready partners that can plug in our fabric. It's fully integrated. Every solution of Fortinet working on FortiOS has that intelligence layer, where you have shared threat intel, where you have got actionable security, whether it's in our security components or even in our networking components. Because we don't do only security, we do also a big networking part. And it's fully automated. I will skip that. we've got 30, 40 different products. 6 years ago, that were also best-in-breed point solutions. Now they are building blocks to an ecosystem. And again, up to you guys to decide how far you want to go, what you need, what your maturity level is, because when your foundation is wrongly built and you've got best-in-breed point solutions, 40 to 70, the miracle solution is not, oh, let's buy a SIEM. How many customers tell me, oh, yes, let's buy a SIEM? You will be drowning in alerts, drowning in logging. If you don't have the time to look at your logging before, then sorry to say, but people will jump out of the window. So look at your foundations, at your architecture, your approach to security, and then build it back up. Like Luke said, I'm not a big fan of PowerPoint. I only do whiteboard drawings. This is security fabric. When I'm at a customer, my little spaghetti, my little Picasso, just to show that it is a mesh.